Hello and welcome back to Practical Knife Reviews. Today for you we've got a vintage knife, an ugly knife, a cheap knife, but a fun knife and very practical knife. This is a vintage Imperial Ireland, so Imperial made in Ireland camp knife with a corkscrew. So most camp knives have just the traditional 4 camp knife implements. We've got a bunch of camp knives. We've reviewed at least one already, and we'll have a bunch more, but the traditional 4 implements would be a blade, can opener, cap lifter, screwdriver, and an awl. This one goes above and beyond and incorporates a corkscrew, which, as you might have remembered from previous videos, I hate corkscrews, but that's usually because they make the knife thicker than it would otherwise be without the corkscrew, or you could put a different tool on there in place of it. I've never used a corkscrew on a knife because I don't open bottles that have corkscrews unless I'm cooking in the kitchen. So I typically hate corkscrews, but this is the same thickness as a camp knife anyway. You just got an extra tool in it because they're only using half of the spring for the awl. So to me, not the worst usage of the space. I would have preferred a Phillips head screwdriver, but you know, that's just me. So let's look at this again. These are all carbon steel tools, except for the corkscrew is stainless. But it's unusual because I've looked online pretty extensively at Imperial Ireland stuff. Most of the stuff that came out of Ireland was stainless, but this is carbon steel. And I have no way of really dating this. I saw online, and I'll mention it a little bit more in depth in a bit, but I saw online that roughly, at least based on one forum post I saw, that it was likely between 1978 and 2004 that Imperial made their stuff in Ireland. So this was likely somewhere between there, and I would say towards the earlier phase of that period, just because this is from my grandpa. Yeah, so I would guess it would be closer to late 70s, early 80s, more than like 90s or 2000s, but who knows. If you have more information on dating these Imperial Ireland knives, let me know, because I only know how to date Imperial knives from the US. But yeah, we'll talk about the pull and the fit and finish on everything when we go inside. But for now, we'll just do cutting. So we'll start off with some paper. And let's see. So I didn't resharpen this since we tried to make this video yesterday. We thought we had recorded it, but turns out that we didn't.
We had some technical difficulties.
And the technical difficulty has a name.
Mom.
That's okay. We're just redoing it right now, and it's no big deal. It'll work just the same. But yeah, I haven't resharpened this since yesterday. You'll see on the previous video that the Rough Rider lost a little bit of its edge from recording day yesterday to recording day today. This one hasn't really lost any of its edge from yesterday to today. So the edge holding on this one, at least based off of the test that we did yesterday, this one held its edge a little bit better. Let's check it on cardboard. A little bit of effort there, very little effort there, no effort there. This is a really, let's see if we can see it, how thin that blade is. Got it in frame?
Yep.
This is a really slicey blade, super thin. Now let's check it on the apple first. See how we peel an apple. Now, caveat, as always, I'm a rotten apple peeler. Now this one, if I get the angle right, since it's a slicey blade, it goes under pretty well. The thickness of the handle is not super conducive to peeling. But the trickier thing about this specific one, so it's a thin blade, I can peel it just fine. You know, that's actually peeling it pretty well right there. But it's a little bit tricky because if you notice, this knife has been sharpened so many times that it has a slight recurve to it. And so I'm trying to cut the curve of the apple fitting into the recurve, which is a little bit weird, rather than catching it on the farthest out point. I'm catching it on like the deepest in point. But yeah, it's not the best apple peeling I've done, but it certainly isn't that bad. And there's my stuff. I'll put the apple to hold it down. So you can see apple peeling, it's fine, but it's a little bit tricky because there is a slight recurve from how many times it was sharpened before I got it. It was actually more recurved before, but I took a little bit of it out. So let's see how it does on wood. First, we're gonna start with pine, which is a softwood. Now the tricky thing about this one, there is a very light pull on this. So I'm having to be very careful to not take very long strokes, because if I make a long stroke and it gets buried in there, when I try to pull it out, the pull is so weak that when I try to pull it out, it wants to fold up on me. So I'm gonna go nice and slow and easy on this pine, and we'll just see how it does. And while I'm making these feather sticks, Ma, why don't you talk about what you think about this knife overall?
It's a cute little ugly knife.
It is ugly. These are just the ugliest brown.
But I don't know why.
scale.
It's cute. It just reminds me of camping or going for a little walk with my dad in the woods. He'd always take a little pocket knife like that.
Well, this was his, so this very well could have been one that he took. So yeah, these are decent feathers. You just have to go really slow because of how light that pull is. I don't know if you can tell how little force there is.
Which is perfect for mothers.
Yeah, you can open it just fine.
Yeah.
Let's try it on. This is red oak. It is the hardest wood that we have in our forest, as I say every time. Now this is tricky because of the light pull, so I'm going to have to choke way up and put my finger right under the kick here to basically stabilize it in place, because every time I'm trying to pull my hand back, it's wanting to fold on me. So from a, I don't know, safety and comfort standpoint,
Yeah, it's not working too good on the hard oak.
well, it's actually slicing into it okay. It's just really hard to get the right angle because of how I'm having to hold this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm having to choke up so high on the blade that, I don't know. For me, I'm having a little bit of problems trying to get the right angle here. Plus, you really can't try to go very far with your strokes because, if you bury it in there, when you pull it out, and you can see, I'll let you watch. Let's try to get one long stroke. When you start to, you see what's happening here?
Yeah, it's curling downward.
Yeah. So I don't know if they could see on the video, but if you make a deep cut and you try to pull it out, you see that?
Yeah.
It's already starting to fold on me.
Close on your fingers.
Yep. So you have to really choke up and be very careful with this one because of how weak the pull is. So that is not ideal. But you can see you can actually make halfway decent feathers here. They're not great, but they're halfway decent. Yeah, in regards to the other tools, can opener I know works because I've used it. The screwdriver probably would work, but it's rounded over a lot from significant usage, and I haven't used the bottle opener. The awl works. It's a little bit blunted on the tip right now. I should probably resharpen it, but I've used it as a gouge before. This is just your traditional awl, camp knife awl, Camp King styled awl. And the bottle opener I never used before, but we'll use it on the inside in just a second. So any other thoughts on this before we take it in, Ma?
No, I like the little loop.
Yeah, this is called a bail. People would put like a lanyard through it. You can either put it in your pocket and then pull it out by the lanyard, or you could use it to affix it to like a backpack or something like that. But yeah, that's just a very traditional style bail on here. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Again, it's an ugly knife. This would have been a really cheap knife even when it came out. Got nicer camp knives, but I don't know. I find myself carrying this one a fair amount of the time, despite being one of the cheapest and lower quality camp knives that I have. And I always carry at least, I have at least one camp knife and one other knife on me at all times, just because I like having the extra implements. But yeah, I think that'll be it for the outside look at this. We'll take it inside, we'll open a wine bottle, one of our cooking bottles of wine, and then we'll take a closer look at the specs. So wait 1 second, we'll be right back. So we're back on Practical Knife Reviews looking at the kind of deluxe camp knife from Imperial, Ireland. Let's get a look at that tang stamp there. Where's the camera? There's the camera. Focus. Well, you'll see it in the close-up video. Doesn't matter for now. We're just going to test I've already used the can opener. That works fine, but I don't have any cans that I need to open now, so I'm not going to. But we've got our bottle of cooking wine here, and I just jammed the cork all the way down as far as I could with the meat mallet. So we'll try to reopen it, but I'm not going to go into one of the holes that there already was, because that would be cheating. We want an accurate look at how this works. So we've got that there.
I can tell you, Henry is not an expert at uncorking wine.
This is tough. What way does it fold? It folds that way. Man, oh man, that's tight. There it goes.
Well, it works.
Can you uncork a wine bottle with it? Yes. Should you uncork a wine bottle with it? Only if you absolutely need to, because that was really a struggle. But you can do it. Okay, now to recork our bottle of cooking wine. And yeah, now we'll take a closer look at the knife itself with any final thoughts. So we're back on Practical Knife Reviews, taking the final look at the Imperial camp knife with the corkscrew. Let's just take a look at all of these implements up close now that we've got the camera set up here. See, Imperial Ireland. Like I said earlier, if you know when when Imperial made their knives in Ireland, the year span, let me know, because I haven't found specific dates for that online. But we got carbon steel everything. Carbon steel blade, you can see that it's kind of bowed from sharpening over time. We've got, and I should mention, the pull on this one is like a 3.5. It's quite a weak pull. Let's get it in the camera, Henry. There we are. It's like a 3.5 of a pull. The awl is like a 3.5, maybe a 4. But you got your classic awl here, which we didn't test, but I have used it as a gouge a couple times, and yeah, it works fine. Although this one is kind of beat up. We could probably use a sharpening, but it works. Yeah, I think that one's probably a 4. This one's also a 4 or so. Can opener, hawkbill style. Works fine. I've opened a can with this one before. Bottle opener's a 3. Screwdriver's rounded off from use over many years. Haven't opened any bottles with that. And you just saw how the corkscrew worked. The corkscrew is maybe a 4.5 or a 5 on the pull. This has the strongest pull of anything. You can open a bottle of wine with it, but it's not exactly easy. Of course, I'm also not an expert of opening wine bottles, so maybe I just suck. That would be unsurprising. And we've got a bail here and cheap plastic covers. Ma, while I get the measuring stuff out, why don't you comment on the knife from a practicality sense?
Practicality stance, I think it's kind of neat. I like the bail on the end. I like the can opener, the bottle opener. Everything about it's cool. And what I really like about it is one of our other kids just found a old dump site with old bottles and stuff that have been buried under the earth, and started digging it up, and I can picture this knife coming out of a dump from that era.
This looks like a dump knife.
It's a dump knife.
In a nice way. It's a dump knife in a nice way.
In a nice way. What I'm saying is that I think it's from probably the same era, these bottles that are being done.
No, this is much newer. This would be from probably, again, I haven't seen the specific dates, but I believe that Imperial started making, it got bought out by one specific guy. This is just based off of what I've seen online. So this is all conjecture on my part, listeners. If you have more information, drop it in the comments. But from what it looked like, there was a transference of ownership. They opened a factory, or they basically leased a factory that was already operating in Ireland in around 78. And it looked like it closed around 2004.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking our dump site is more like 30s, 40s.
Yeah, this is significantly newer than that. To the best, again, I could be wrong. Listeners, if I am, let me know if those numbers that I had seen on one forum post from 10 years ago, let me know if those are right, too. I have any information, just give it to me, please. But yeah, to the best of my knowledge, again, based off of one forum post from 10 years ago, the Imperial factory in Ireland was going from 78 to 2004. So this would be significantly newer. But
well, you could throw it in the dump and it would be really cool like the bottles.
It is an old looking knife. I have much nicer looking camp knives than this, but you know, figured we got to review this one at some point. But in any case, it's 6 1/4 inches long open. Close it without closing it on the bail, which is always a real threat. We're looking at 3 3/4 inches closed. I guess I'll give you a width measurement just because on these camp knives they do have a tendency to get a little bit bulky. We're looking at just a smidge over 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8. I would say 5/8 of an inch thick. And now let's get a weight measurement. Turn that, move the lights. Move the cords right in front of the camera because that's always useful. How light is that? Okay, that's that one. 3 ounces on the dot, which is 87 grams. It is really light, but the thing about these Imperial knives are, Imperial was always a budget brand, always. I mean, it is still now. You can buy Imperial knives now. They're made in China under, I believe, Taylor Brands. The Taylor Brands Smith & Wesson family owns the trademark to Imperial now. They used to all be made in Providence, Rhode Island. Even when they were made in Providence, they were still a budget brand. They just were a good, you know, a pretty decent quality budget brand, especially the earlier ones. Then they moved to Ireland and they moved some of the production to Ireland and became even more of a budget brand. And that was until they went bankrupt. Now they're a super budget brand made in China. So the thing to keep in mind, Imperial was always a budget brand, and this was the extra budget period of the budget brand's history. So it is light. The fit and finish is, you know, it is what it is. Of course, this is also probably a 35 or 40-year-old knife, but, you know, it's a fully functional knife. I have used it I always carry a camp knife or a scout knife on me just for these extra tools in case I need it, whether it's a Swiss Army knife or whatever. So I have carried this and I have had it used a decent amount. But yeah, I mean, if you're expecting a work of art, you're looking in the wrong place. If you're looking for just a functional knife, this could be one for you. The more important part of this is this was given to me by my grandfather, as several of the knives in our previous videos have been. And as you probably know, my grandfather's my favorite person. So this has sentimental value to me, even though this knife is probably valued at around $5. Ma, any final thoughts on it?
Nope, I see you carrying that all the time.
Yeah, like I said, I carry a scout knife on me or a camp knife on me every day, along with other knives, but I always carry one of these just for the extra tools. I particularly like the ones with the awls on them, but yeah. All right, if that's all, we'll wrap up this episode of Practical Knife Reviews, and we'll see you again real soon. Thanks for watching.